Hi, just a quick video to summarize Chapter 10 for you. 15-20 minutes to help you with online quiz number 10 and optional exam 3, which is also online and optional since it's our first online exam. You can try it out. It can only help your grade. Completely optional. So none of the assignments are due till online until the end of the semester on May 18th, and there's no time limit in lecture. Now lab, there's a time limit in lab. That's what was agreed upon, 20 minutes. And there's a large pool of questions there over well, the lab we did before spring break. There'll be an online lab quiz in the Lab 9 folder for online lab quiz 8, and also due by Sunday, April 5th as well. Everything's due that end of that first week, this coming week, or this week, March 30th through April 5th, Monday to Sunday. There's lab activities for Lab 9 due, photos of the pre-lab and the lab pages that are possible to do at home. There's directions on the Master Lab site. All of this is through the Master Lab site, except for the lecture stuff, like Chapter 10, online lecture quiz, will be through the lecture site. So find the Lab Master site. That's where all the lab work will be done. Take some pictures of your pre-lab, do Lab 9 pages that are instructed to do on the Master Lab site. Follow all the directions that are there. The Lab 9 folder, which is in the Lab Assignments link there on the Master Lab site. Alright, I will have office hours by using an app, a video app called Zoom, during our regular times, and hope you can join me if you have any questions over any of this. People have already completed the lab assignments for next week. I opened it early this week. It's open, well, it's open now. Today's before March 30th, and trying to get ahead with this video. Alright, so let's get to it. Review for the online quiz over Chapter 10. This is about as low-tech as you can get, recording the PowerPoints, kind of like what we experienced in class. Sensory receptors, basically dendrites of neurons, pick up sensations due to depolarization, sodium flooding across that membrane. They transmit them to sense organs like the eye. This online lab quiz is mainly a lot about eye anatomy. Most of it is the eye, but we have some other sensations as well. Alright, so this is a slide about sensation. This will be on the online lab quiz. You'll have to distinguish between general senses and special senses. Special senses are something that's special, like the things we love, like being able to see, vision. Smell, which will be, our new word for smell is gustation, also on the lab quiz, and we have a slide for that coming up. Taste, we love being able to hear, etc. General senses are those other things that are listed there. Free nerve endings carry pain. They also carry cold and heat. Don't worry about so much about all the details here. We've already learned about hair receptors, dendrites around hair follicles in the skin. The only thing I want you to worry about for corpuscles is that they are pressure receptors. This is a pressure receptor, a deep pressure receptor, and then there's other ones as well that sense lighter touch and lighter pressure. Pain, we know what pain is, but we may not know a nociceptor is a pain receptor. Right, soma, somatic, soma, first part of this word here is body, and that's body pain, muscles, etc. Visceral pain, that's pain in your organs. Now referred pain is fairly complicated, but it's referred to a different area than where it's actually occurring. This is you won't see this on the online quiz and lecture. It's well, fairly detailed, but it tells you where pain is referred to. Angina pectoris, pain felt in the left, shooting down the left arm from a heart attack, is pictured on this side. All right, a little review question. What's the difference between somatic and visceral pain? Somatic is body pain and visceral is organ pain. All right, gustation, our new word for sense. It is number 10 on the online lecture quiz, which once again, no time limits for lecture quizzes and lecture exams, but there are time limits for the lab quiz, 20 minutes. So make sure you're prepared with all your materials out and ready to answer questions about, well, online quiz 8, once again, for lab, is over nervous system, which we covered in Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 in lecture. And then Lab 9 is sensation over this stuff. Gustation is taste. We've had papillae, this word before. We had dermal papillae, pills, little pill-shaped structures of the dermis. These are just clusters of taste buds, pill-shaped clusters of taste buds. The taste cells are actually the what experiences the depolarization, the taste, and they are inside this thing, which is a taste bud. There's the taste pore. Things that are small can get in there, like sugars. Things that are bigger, like starches, are too big to enter that taste pore. So potatoes, which are made chains of sugars, don't taste sweet because, but they still have a lot of sugar in them. They don't taste sweet because we can't taste them. They can't get into that small opening. Don't need to worry about the anatomy of the tongue and the anatomy of the taste cell. I did not put this on the online lecture quiz over this chapter, Chapter 10. All right, there is a question on the online lecture quiz over the 5 primary sensations. Salty, of course, we know is metallic ions like sodium and potassium. They taste salty. Sweet is small carbon rings like sugars. Sour is things that are acidic, have a low pH number. Just to review, pH. Bitter is alkaline, and umami is a meaty taste. All right, the sense of smell, called olfaction. We need to know olfaction is smell, olfactory bulb in the brain. And the sheep's brain, we saw it, but there's on the online lecture quiz over the brain chapter, Chapter 9. And the numbers for lab and lecture don't match anymore, just go by the titles. The brain chapter and lecture, number 9, has a bunch of brain anatomy, human brain anatomy questions. It's all anatomy, so people have been doing pretty well on it. Olfaction is smell. Those dendrites extend down into the epithelium in your nose. And this is obviously pretty complicated stuff. We have these hairs, which are basically extensions of the dendrite. So the 5 primary taste sensations we already just went through. Those are them, and they're on the online lab quiz. Now, equilibrium is keeping your balance, sense of balance. Hearing, of course, is we know what that is. And there are 3 sections of the ear. We need to know what structures are in the outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear for the online lab quiz. Okay. So, ear structures from outside to inside, the auricle, and then the bottom part, this part here, that's the lobule. You'll need to know all the anatomy for the eye and the ear for the online lecture quiz, and also for the possibly for the online lab quiz 9 and the lecture exam if you decide you're going to take that and give it a shot. Now, I don't know what you have going on. I hope you're well, and we will just keep in touch. This is just one way that we can review this material. These slides are on Blackboard, of course. I'm just going through them with you like I would if we were in class. All right, so the auricle pinna is the outer ear. The auditory canal is the opening that you can put your finger in, your ear hole. The tympanic membrane is the eardrum. We need to know that. And so from outside to inside, sound would go hit the pinna or the auricle, that outer ear, go into the auditory canal, vibrate the tympanic membrane, which is the eardrum, vibrate the three bones we need to know in order: malleus, incus, stapes. Those are the ossicle bones, and they transfer the sound to the cochlea, vibrate the basilar membrane, and so on and so forth. The auditory tube is not the same as the auditory canal. Auditory tube goes to the pharynx, which is the throat, and equalizes pressure there. The oval window is sound in, the round window is sound out. The vestibule is kind of like the same word, it's like the middle space in the inner ear that transmits the vibrations to the organ of hearing, which is the cochlea. Now there's actually another inside the cochlea. There's membrane that vibrates, and that's called the organ of Corti. And but this anatomy, expect to see this on lab quiz over lab 9, and then online exam 3 will have obviously all of these ear structures. There's lobule there in case it's on the lab quiz or the lecture quiz, or either one. Alright, so don't worry so much about this slide. Those are advanced parts of the inner ear, but we do need to know the semicircular canals, or ducts. Most likely they're called ducts, and they are involved in keeping your balance, knowing body position and keeping your balance. Okay, it moves this pad one way or another, and it signals these dendrites to speed up or slow down their depolarization, and that gives us positioning. Fluid in there moves this cupula thing there. Alright, so the cochlea, once again, the organ of hearing, is inside the cochlea. It's called the organ of Corti. If I can find that question, I'll have it on the lecture exam 3, but it's not on the lecture quiz. Maybe probably not on the lab quiz either, but we'll see. Haven't made that lab quiz 9 yet. Haven't made the exam 3 yet, but I have made this online quiz 8 over chapter 10. Not 8, but 10. Outer ear to the middle ear to the inner ear. This is just a model showing us the path of sound waves. These levers represent the malleus, incus, and stapes bones in the middle ear. This isn't currently working. I'm sorry that it's still in there. Didn't want to delete it because I want you to know we're on slide 39 here, and now we're covering the eye, or vision. Alright, the orbits, those are the eye sockets. Accessory structures of the eye include the eyebrows and the eyelids, eyelashes. Conjunctiva is a membrane that oftentimes gets infected, that's on the inside of the eyelid and the bottom part of the eyeball. The lacrimal apparatus, lacrimal is tears. There are tear glands in that. And then there's 6 muscles on the outside of the eye that move the eye itself. But the most important, optic, or the optic nerve is the most important cranial nerve. It's number 2, and it doesn't move the eye. It picks up light from inside the eye. Alright, so these accessory structures aren't that important, from the eyelids to the eyebrows. You can live without those. The light's going to go through the cornea and then through this black dot, which is the iris, and that will be apparent on our eye diagram, the one that you're going to completely label on this online lecture quiz. Just 10 questions, 10 points. No time limit, remember, and you have this diagram open and do your best to answer the questions, understand the anatomy. Alright, the fibrous layer is the outer layer. The white of the eye is called the sclera. It's continuous with the transparent part, the see-through part, the cornea. That's the outer part of the eye. So take a look at your eyes in the mirror sometime, and you'll see the sclera, the white of the eye, and you'll see the cornea as well. and then the black dot, that is the pupil, and the iris changes the opening size of the pupil. The iris adjusts the opening, which is the pupil. So we can add another word to pupil, pupillary opening, to keep it straight from the iris, but this is one of the most mixed up terms in all of anatomy. The difference between the pupil, the opening, and the smooth muscle around it. The colored part of your eye is the iris. Okay, that makes the size of the pupil different. Alright, ciliary body, we have to know. It is smooth muscle that pulls on these suspensory ligaments that are attached to the lens. It changes the shape of the lens. The choroid is the middle layer. It's the vascular layer. It's where the blood vessels are. We need to know that word vascular for forever. Vascular means has blood vessels, avascular, no blood vessels, etc. Alright, the retina is the neural layer, so it's extension of neurons, extension of the optic nerve, and picks up light sensation through specialized receptors called photoreceptors. Now the aqueous humor is in the anterior part of the eye, and we'll go over that anterior versus posterior chambers here when we get to the diagram. This diagram you'll see on the online lecture quiz. But you can see very clearly that between the cornea and the iris is the anterior chamber. And right behind the smooth muscle of the iris and the little space between that and the lens is called the posterior chamber. Now don't get that mixed up with posterior cavity. This cavity is this huge space, posterior space, and it has this vitreous humor, which is like a gelatin-like material that you saw in your lab book. When you'll see it when you do that page for Lab 9. We want you to look at the pictures and describe them, write some things in your lab book, and take photos of them and submit them on Blackboard using the directions that are there on that master lab site. Not the regular lab site, but the master site that we're using for lab. Ciliary body pulls on these suspensory ligaments and changes the shape of the lens. This one is on the online lab quiz, but just use this slide 51. Have it open on extra device maybe, or if you got them printed out, great. But if you have a paper book, even better. But that will be there. But you can label all these things. You just drag and drop them. If dragging and dropping is not working on your phone, then try to borrow something from a neighbor or something that a laptop that has a little better capability for drag and drop type questions. All right, the lens is the structure that focuses light on the retina. It's transparent proteins, just like the cornea. The vitreous body is the jelly-like material that keeps the retina pushed back up against the back of the eye. The retina is the photoreceptive layer. That is extension of the optic nerve. And where there are no photoreceptors, or where the blood vessels exit in the eye, and that's called the blind spot. You're going to measure your blind spot the best you can, estimate it with, just estimate the distance and write it in your lab book and take a picture of it and put it into a Word document and submit it on Blackboard on the master lab site. Retina is, like we said before, the photoreceptors are in the retina. And there's a special part of the retina called the fovea centralis. That's the greatest area of acuity, meaning sharpness of vision, and that's directly behind the lens. That's where we look at most things, directly behind the lens. Alright, we did blind spot already. Let's see what it looks like on the diagram. This diagram, every single structure is on the online lecture quiz for Chapter 10. There's 3 different questions, and it has drag and drops for all of these structures. First, the 3 layers of the eye. The sclera is the connective tissue fibrous layer. The choroid is the vascular layer, the middle layer. And the retina is the innermost layer that has the blood vessels are in the choroid. The retina is photoreceptors. There's that fovea centralis directly behind the lens. The optic disc, there's no photoreceptors on these blood vessels, so there's no vision there. And then the optic nerve goes back to the occipital lobe where vision happens. Ora serrata is where the retina ends. And that word's on there. It's not on our objectives, but I can't put these questions on here unless, there's always one that's not on our list. But you can still use this image on slide 57 to drag and drop and get that right. Or just leave that one for last. It'll be the one that's last. Ciliary body is a smooth muscle. Suspensory ligaments attach to the lens. Iris is the colored part of your eye. The cornea is continuous with the sclera and it's transparent. The pupil is the opening. Anterior chamber, posterior chamber behind the iris, anterior chamber in front of the iris into the cornea, and then the vitreous jelly is in here and it keeps this retina from detaching, keeps pressure in the eye, etc. And then, the eye dissection is always tricky. There's always pressure in there sometimes, and sometimes some of this vitreous jelly squirts out, and students don't really like that so much, and sorry that you're missing it this semester, but can't be helped. Near point of accommodation is how near you can see. Presbyopia is old vision. We might see that on the lecture exam because it's bold-faced. You notice there's nothing underlined in here. We're focusing on the anatomy, the ear anatomy and the eye anatomy in those diagrams. Rods are for low light vision. Cones starts with C and color starts with C, and this is for color vision, so that matches up. The eye is even more complicated than olfaction, smell, and etc. So we won't get into that. The optic chiasm, is the cross where the optic nerves cross in the brain. There it is. We saw that when we did the dissection before spring break. A video that's not there, and then this last slide, what part of the retina produces the greatest resolution image? The fovea centralis. Fovea means pit. It's the central pit. It's directly behind the lens. It's the area of greatest visual acuity, and that's what that says there. All right, I hope this 22-minute video helped. We'll see you later.